I usually do a little 4-bar goofy freestyle in the beginning with my intro music, but unfortunately, I don't got that right now. Let me just listen. It's episode 90, and we finna get lit. It's the birthday girl, so you know I'm with the shits. What it look like? Pretend I did that like on beat or something. I just be saying stupid shit like that, but yeah. There, 90 in a row. Consistency. So we really thought we had a world record last week with our episode being just around 30 minutes. I even named episode 89 of the third pod 30-minute Molly. And we about to break that record because I am only doing this here on my birthday. Literally today is my birthday, March 16th in Las Vegas, because I promised y'all a late pod because I wasn't able to get it on time and I didn't want to skip the full week. So once I get here, I realize I don't have the equipment necessary. It's going to be a wobbly pod too because I'm wired to my phone. I don't have the music set up to do my freestyle. Like, shit is rough. This is more like episode 89 and a half, if anything. Lyrics about to infiltrate and fuck shit up. That's my co-host, producer of the third pod. He is a cat. But yeah, we're going to do it anyway. Fuck it. Let's just talk for a few minutes. Let's chop it up. I do have some topics. I do have notes. May as well. Right? So if you're new here, my name is DAPHYA and I am host of the third pod. I usually do a little 4-bar goofy freestyle in the beginning with my intro music, but unfortunately, I don't got that right now. Let me just listen. It's episode 90, and we finna get lit. It's the birthday girl, so you know I'm with the shits. What it look like? Pretend I did that like on beat or something. I just be saying stupid shit like that, but yeah. There, 90 in a row. Consistency. All right, so I was actually on an Instagram live show called it's Beats and Bars Convo. Is it Beats and Bars or Bars and Beats? I might be fucking the order of the name. Let me just confirm that. Oh, I said it right. It's Beats and Bars. I got this tattoo that says trust yourself, and yet I still continue to not trust myself, especially when it comes to spelling. And I be right. I be right a lot of the time. A lot of the time, I be right. A lot. But whatever. So yeah, shout out to the gang over there that had me on. Chopped it up for a bit. Talked mostly hip hop. And once I got off the show, if you did catch the episode, I realized that I broke a few of my new. Nah, they're not rules, but I broke a couple promises. Cause like my best friend said, I gotta stop saying I'm not an artist because I don't consider myself an artist anymore. Even though I continue to make music, I'm a songwriter above all. But an artist will always be an artist. I just mean that I can't be packaged, and I can't be sold in that way, as a commodity. But it always feels like a lot to explain, so I just don't. I just say what I say, and I say it with my chest. But that was fun. I just wanted to give them a quick shout out because I did that a couple nights ago. And I thought about it because we actually had a convo there. And I wrote a note about it too here. That's what I'm looking at. The evolution of the third pod was very closely related to growing in love. Now, what we spoke about on the actual show, I didn't write in my notes though, so that's crazy. But I know exactly what I mean by my note though, so I'll just talk about that real quick because during multiple episodes, I've mentioned, yeah, there goes lyric. During multiple episodes, I've mentioned that it's always music first. The pod is just kind of like something I do for fun. So sometimes there are late episodes like this one. And sometimes I skip episodes and I take a long break in between seasons because I have so many things on my plate. If you know, I make music, songwriter. I'm out there physically performing. I have a clothing brand on my website, DAPHYA.com. It's DAPHYA shop. So, my hand is in a lot of different pots. And I grew to actually fall in love with potting somehow, like unexpectedly, because initially I only started my podcast because every time I went out to a show or a hip hop event and I spoke to people, they said, you should have a podcast. You need a podcast. It will be good. And then they just listed all this A, B, C, D, E, like a whole list of why I should have a podcast. So eventually I got tired of hearing it. It was the same story with TikTok, by the way. I'm obsessed with TikTok right now. And everybody has been telling me for like almost a decade, get on TikTok, get on TikTok. You won't thrive on TikTok. You belong on TikTok. And I'm just like, I don't know what TikTok is. Leave me alone. And these people are right. So number one, listen to people when they speak, number one. But also, I compare it to an arranged marriage because a lot of people look at arranged marriages as if they're so peculiar and I guess inhumane in a way, like they're forcing two people to be together. But in these cultures, they take time to actually pair these cultures in a way that they feel is accurate. Like they take all these tests and assessments and stuff like that. And even if the people meet, and this is because my best friend is Muslim, shout out Uzi. So this is something that she actually told me, and she did have an arranged marriage at one point. Hers didn't work out, but sorry if I'm putting business out there, but this is just facts. She was way too Americanized. Like it's a whole different thing because it does have to do with the culture and the way our mindsets are. And she was with me in Jersey in the slums. You feel me? So, but whatever. That's besides the point. The point is typically the way it works is you understand you're in this arranged situation. So you just feel it out and eventually you fall into love because you see the reasons why you were put together. Now, obviously, that's not always going to work. But it worked with my podcast is where I'm going with it. Like they say you should have a podcast. I said I'll give it a shot. And on my third attempt, because my first two pods were with co-hosts, shout out my best friend Marilla and my good friend Con Boogie. We both had ideas to do pods. Me and Marilla actually even recorded about, I think we did 4 or 6, anywhere from 4 to 6 episodes, but we just never released it. We decided not to put it out, and then I had moved back to Jersey because I was living in Atlanta at the time. But yeah, it's funny how that shit works. And here we are where I'm recording a pod in Vegas on my birthday because I actually love the shit. You feel me? So it's funny how life works. Another topic I have here on the docket, though, I should probably work on my transitions now that I'm saying no, but okay. I got a transition. You ready? All right. So speaking of falling in love, Doechii was asked about her dating life. I ate with that. Stop playing with me. I ate with that. Doechii was asked about her dating life, and she's quoted as saying, they asked her like, what are your icks, or your turn-offs, your red flags? What are your red flags? I think was the exact quote. And she says, strike one, you're a man, Doechii joked, and you're a heterosexual. And the internet went crazy. But I feel like Doechii is on this ascent that is comparably to Cardi B. And don't tell me it's different because Cardi B came out of nowhere, because Cardi B didn't come out of nowhere either. Both of these women were working on their craft long before they popped off. But when they popped off, like lightning. That's what I'm saying. That's my opinion. That's what I noticed. But everybody went crazy because they felt like she was bashing straight men, which is crazy to me because literally the question is, what is your preference? What do you not like? And she said, heterosexual men turn me off. Essentially, that's the gist of what she said. That's her right, number one. Number two, she said it jokingly. Like, she's trying to be lighthearted. She's trying to be funny. She's trying to be witty. You know, I think she achieved it. I'm using the word trying, but I think she did. And it was lighthearted, and I think it got taken way out of context. And it wasn't until I saw the Joe Budden podcast bring it up where I kind of noticed how out of hand it got, because men are really angry. And apparently, according to the Joe Budden podcast, there is what they say, something on Twitter. It's specifically straight black men that are being attacked, and they use the word erasure. So they're trying to erase straight black men. I think that sounds ridiculous. And let me tell you why. So, number one, when they were having the conversation, somehow it actually all started because they were talking about a certain, I don't even know the main story they were talking about, but it had to do with men growing up and becoming the men of the house, even if they weren't of age. Just like your 16-year-old son, you don't have a father figure in the house, so he's now the man of the house. He starts taking responsibilities. And they also did eventually speak of, they say it's very common in black culture. I think it's common in urban culture, in lower economic culture, I guess, because the parents are always out working, essentially. And we do have that stigma of fathers just not being in the home, and it's super sad, but it is what it is. But however, it applies to the females as well. They mentioned like the oldest daughter helping care, for the other kids. And I know I could definitely identify with that, but my mother never made it a burden for me to help raise my brother. So there are levels, I'm sure. But Melissa Ford got very emotional, and she was just defending the fact that Joe brought into the equation that whole bear versus man in the forest thing, which I spoke about on this pod. And I actually based it wasn't my first release, but my first re-release of the Good Men Exist collection was based on that argument. And it's literally a bear in front of a forest, and it says Good Men Exist on the bottom. Now, I understand the frustration of these men, but I can't understand how they don't see what women go through. I can't understand how they want to completely ignore the worser option, and saying that they're being erased, to me, is just ridiculous. He didn't have any type of evidence or anything to back that, except people are saying stuff on Twitter, which to me doesn't apply. I think I spoke about Melissa Ford on this pod too before. I feel like when she got emotional, I understood why. She stated that she has been a victim of sexual assault and, misconduct or whatnot, and even spoke about a specific situation in her childhood. And I just felt so weird that they kept this conversation alive the way they did, and Flip jumped in to defend it still. And when he did, she stayed quiet. She let that man speak. And then Ice jumped in and basically reiterated the last point that Melissa had made. And then he said, okay. All of a sudden he understood because another man said it. And I find myself I found myself in those types of situations very commonly throughout my life. Not like all at one time, but I found myself in those situations multiple times where I need another man to come say like, yo, DAPHYA said this or DAPHYA meant that. And then all of a sudden they're like, ding, I get it now. And it's so annoying. It's so frustrating. And they don't realize in that moment that situation is an exact example of the whole bear versus man forest thing. Like, obviously, I'm I'm not saying that they're the same, and I'm not saying that any of these men who don't understand women or listen to women are to any other, criminal level or disrespectful even level. But there is a correlation there with that understanding and that perception of how much sense a woman makes because you're just not receiving it properly, and how important a woman's stance is. I mean, that's why the policing over women's bodies is such a big deal. It's because they're just like, hey, just don't do this, just don't do that. That's not the point. The point is, this is my body, and I totally get that. And I've spoken on the pod that I personally would never have abortion if, like it was optional. There are also medical issues. There's rape and incest and all that type of stuff. But we're not even talking about that. If it was just optional, you just don't feel like having a baby, I would never do that. But I absolutely 100% think that any woman is allowed to make that decision for her. If she's like, oh, wait, I just got a promotion, I can't do this right now, I need to do this, da da da. I understand. But some people don't. And that's where the confusion lies. And that's where it's almost like, sometimes it's like you got to agree to disagree. But when you agree to disagree, laws and bills shouldn't be passed, and shit shouldn't be overturned, because that is not acceptable, that as an agreement, as far as I'm concerned. But the whole conversation ended by essentially them buttering her up. And then she's like, yeah, I am. Because their whole point was like, you got raised like that, and look how great and successful you are. And she's like, yeah, I am. And then they moved along. And I'm just like, no. No. Like, Melissa be doing so good, and then she just make me mad sometimes. But her intention is always good. She's super educated. Like, I'm never shitting on Melissa Ford. She's beautiful is just a bonus. And she used her beauty to be heard. So I'm happy that she is able to speak and be heard regardless. But sometimes I'm just like, I wish it could have went all the way kind of thing. And I always, in the past few episodes, I think I've mentioned Jessie Woo. Like, she has really become somewhat of an idol to me online. Like, she is so strong. Oh, and Jasmine, I think it's Crockett is her last name. She has been eating for the Democrats. Like, I love me a strong black woman. And it's crazy because, like, they're the ones under attack all the time. They're the ones who get judged and misunderstood, and in the medical field actually ignored and mistreated in a lot of ways. So when we talk about that abortion stuff too, that comes into play too. Like, there are certain patients who are gonna basically get to the point where they need that abortion before other patients do, because they were ignored or because they weren't listened to, because they minimized their pain or their symptoms or whatever the case may be. But that's a whole nother argument. But it really all ties together. I could say that's a whole nother argument, but everything ties together. So yeah, that was the end of their convo, and that's what I had here. Another thing I have here, I'm gonna make this the last thing, because like I said, I'm gonna keep this super short. I gotta go watch my guy Frederick De Silva. I saw him he's a mentalist here in Vegas, and I saw him do a show when I came out with my girl Quartz for the first time I ever came to Vegas. I think it was I don't even remember. I think it was like 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018. But yeah, I saw his show. We met up with him for pictures after the show. He ended up following me, and we kept in touch a little bit online. He's super cool, and he's just been taking off. So I'm gonna go see his show again, because I'm gonna go support my friend. You feel me? You know how we do. You feel me? But he's magic. He better not tell me nothing spooky. He's not magic. I mean, mentalism is more psychology based than anything. But is still incredibly impressive. Incredibly. So the last thing I want to talk about is actually the new case filed against Diddy, but including some names that rang bells. And those names are Odell Beckham, Druski, and Jaguar Wright that I know of right now. And Jaguar Wright semi-shocked me. Like, at first, hearing her name shocked me because, as we know, she has been very anti-Diddy for a very long time. But she's also been right about a lot of shit, and that's why I never ignored her. Sometimes she's so theatrical. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. But to ignore the fact that she's been right about so many things would just be ignorant. That would just be a stupid thing to do. So I do not ignore her. I do not discredit her. But how do you keep being right about all these things that happen behind closed doors or in underground tunnels or whatever the case may be if you didn't see any of it? And she admits that she did some mischievous type stuff in her past, but she never mentioned that it was with these people that she attacks. We know that she sang for Jay-Z. We saw her during the Unplugged performance. We know there was a relationship there. She said that he did some bad things to her, or that she saw him do bad things, but it was never anything sinister as far as like they were in a secret group. They were at a, in a private setting, and it was usually like pretty surface level for the most part. Diddy, she never, from the interviews I've seen, I don't recall her mentioning anything Diddy did that she saw herself. It was always secondhand. It was always somebody told me he punched Kim Porter, whatever the case may be. It was always she was close enough to know, but she wasn't there. And now, according to this case, she was there. So I was shocked at first, but then I wasn't so shocked because then I was like, she's always right and she knows all these things and she says she wasn't there, but maybe that's why she knows so much, is because she was. And she was an accomplice, but she didn't want to say that part because she didn't want to incriminate herself. That's all theory. That's me just using my conspiracy brain right here live on the third pod. But that's why it was shocking at first, but now I'm not so shocked. Now I'm like, okay, maybe she was in the mix. The other name was Odell Beckham Jr. I don't do sports, so I don't know who that is. I've heard the name around, but I don't know anything to judge it or to be shocked or to be anything. He's a football player. Football players have a lot of crazy stories out there, especially when it comes to violence against women. That's a fact. Is that a terrible stereotype? Absolutely. But then we're going to go right back to the fucking bear in the forest shit. You feel me? So if I want to go to that, then I would be slightly less shocked, I guess. But I don't just automatically put that on football players. My uncle was a football player. And, God rest his soul, he passed away at 19. But yeah, nothing like that. So I'm just speaking generally how people might see or whatever. For me, I don't even know who it is. So I didn't have no shock at all, no nothing. I'm just like, oh, damn. Damn, Odell, whoever you are. I knew who he was. But I just don't know anything about him besides that he's a football player. Now we get to the one I really want to talk about. Druski. That was shocking. Because Druski currently, actively, right now, just started it's not a revamp because it's a brand new show. It's his show, but it's called Could Have Been Love. It's a YouTube series on his YouTube channel. He's doing it independently. He does have sponsors for sure. Many. Lots of money going into that show. And it's essentially like the old reality, the first ever reality love shows that they had on like VH1, where they had Flavor of Love or Rock of Love, wherever you get to date a celebrity, or the MTV ones too, like the I forgot what the name where you date Pauly Hustle and Shit, Polly Hustle somebody. Oh God. Speaking of terrible, man. Anyway, I'm sorry. No. Pauly D and Vinny. I forgot his last name too. Well, Vinny and Pauly D from Jersey Shore. You get to date them. So it's essentially that, but Druski is the celebrity or whatever. Now, when I first saw the show, I was actually watching somebody react to it while they watched it. And that's what got me hooked. So I started watching every episode. Druski, I have seen around and I understand that he's funny. I do see the appeal to an extent, but I don't think he's necessarily very like witty. It's not Bill Burr, edgy takes. It's not well thought out Dave Chappelle story comedic concept. It's not many stand-up comedies, to be honest, or many stand-up comics, to be honest, they do that. They write well. That's why people always tell me to do stand-up. I'm like, I can't. It's there. That's a craft and a skill in itself, but it takes a lot of preparation, planning. It's intricate. They bring it full circle. Kevin Hart is another one. He's great. He's great at storytelling because he's so animated, but he does do the actual writing well. This is assuming everybody writes their own shit. I don't know. But Druski is just kind of a skit comic, and he blew up, online or whatnot. But apparently he had a relationship with Diddy. Apparently, these are things I didn't know because I didn't follow his career close enough. And I just started watching that new show that came out that's taking him to whole new levels. And he is apparently signed to Revolt, which was Diddy's company. Now, I haven't heard anything about Jaguar Wright apologizing, but I did hear Odell Beckham wrote something. And basically, he was just like, God got me. Y'all gonna see the truth. All right, cool, whatever. And then Druski wrote a very well-articulated kind of press release response or whatever. But one of the things that he says is that this was from 2018. I wasn't even famous in 2018. Now, you gave these unnecessary details. You shared this detail. The internet gonna do what the internet do. So, of course, there's already videos on YouTube where they're proving that he was signed to his management. His manager was close with Diddy and worked with Diddy in the past. So there's links to Diddy even at that time, even though he wasn't necessarily famous. He was still beginning his journey at that time. So even mentioning that was a mistake on his part. But because I was just starting to like him because I was watching Could Have Been Love, I never got into the whole Could Have Been Records thing. Essentially, that was just like, I didn't even give it a fair chance, to be honest. So I don't even feel right commenting on it. What it seemed like was American Idol rejects, just a lot of them. And it seemed like he highlighted that specific part of American Idol and just made it a continuous series from the outside looking in. Like I said, I never watched the full episode or followed that. I don't even know if it's a show officially. I think it is a real record label though. I think he actually did sign acts and stuff. But so I'm just like now, literally less than 2 weeks in of my Druski fandom journey, I hear this stuff. And they said that, like, the only thing that people really kind of reported at first was that he put baby oil all over the woman, the Jane Doe, because the person filing the suit didn't give her name. But he put baby oil all over her, and then he, like, slid on her like a slide. Ha ha ha, everybody's laughing at that. That's super funny. It's ridiculous because he's such a big dude, and we're assuming the woman is probably dainty, petite, whatever. Even if she wasn't, it's still a sight that people will laugh at. However, there's so much more to that case. If you actually look at the document and read the document, it's not funny. None of it is funny. These niggas was putting, if allegedly, these niggas was putting IUDs in the victims before they raped them. Obviously, so that, they don't get pregnant. But that's something you go to the doctor for, and the doctor places inside of you with, I'm sure, some sort of professional apparatus and whatnot. I never had one. I could call a friend right now, but I'm not going to do that. And they're just doing this, like, before they start their little sessions. Allegedly, according to the documents. So that's one thing that super stood out to me. I don't know if I want to say this part first. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to say it. Because I have a little video here. I'm going to play some audio. I'm going to just play it.
Buffy, why does the whole world think I was freaking off with you in 2018? Because I told them you were. You got everyone thinking I'd lather my jugs and belly down in baby oil and use girls as slipping slides? Why would you do that? Because it's funny. And also, the more stories I make up, the more cases fall through, making me look innocent. You think you can just treat people like pawns on a chessboard? You wish you were a pawn. You're just the square that gets stepped on. That's why you befriended all of us streamers? Did you get...
Okay, so the one who said... You wish you were a pawn, you're just the square that gets stepped on. That was supposed to be Diddy. Diddy could never. That's a fucking bar. Diddy would never. You know Diddy don't write rhymes, he write checks. He said it himself. Stop playing with me. But essentially, that was supposed to be a conversation between a joke on. It's a little cartoon, parody. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, whatever. It's a little cartoon parody thing, but between Druski and Diddy. But when I saw that, I was like, thank fucking God people are noticing, because that is what I have been saying this whole time to myself and people in real life. Is when they first came out and they said 1,000 people have been putting in lawsuits, that one lawyer, Bugsby or whatever the fuck his name is, Bigsby. Well, I was like, that sounds like a bad idea. That sounds like it's gonna make a frenzy, a zoo. It's making a mockery out of everything, essentially, because there is gonna be fake stories. There are gonna be people who just want to get a check, and they're gonna try their luck. And essentially, when that last case was released that inserted Jay-Z's name into the mix, Jay-Z, he shut it down. Okay? I'm leaving my opinion completely out of whether it was true, whether it happened, whether I believe it, what. But Jay-Z shut it down, and he is like reverse suing the lawyer for libel, slander, or something like that, and all this stuff. And that possibly could have been a decoy case, and there could be other strategically intentionally placed cases like that. They pay people off. I'll take care of your whole family. Just put this case in, But whatever you do, don't settle. Don't admit you lied. Just run with it the whole way through. Don't worry, everything's gonna blow over. Because if the thing that happens is, if the actual person filing the case, the Jane Doe, does admit that she lied, she's cooked. She's cooked. So I'm sure they have a long speech. If my pretend make-believe conspiracy brain theory is right. And apparently I'm not alone. A lot of people think this could be the fake case. Until I don't be knowing that my shit be so like widespread until I go online and I'm like, oh, okay. So people are actually smart, because I be thinking people just don't care. I be thinking people a little bit slow. You feel me? Like I really be like that. And then I see something like this and I'm like, oh, okay, they know what's going on. So that gives me hope. And it does lift my spirits a little bit, because I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity for justice here. Because essentially, at the end of the day, that's what these real victims need. The real ones. You feel me? That's another fight, I'm constantly having and going back and forth with people too. It's like severity of what victims go through versus the fake victims, because I don't want to say women, it's men too, that lie and make up stories and damage people's careers and reputations and stuff. Because the whole argument is if this is a decoy case and it is a dummy case and none of this is real, no matter what you do, you Google Druski and Diddy baby oil slide is gonna come up. You feel me? And that's not okay, obviously. But what is the other option? The other option is ignore the Jane Doe completely? No. That's crazy. And then the only other option to a lot of people, unfortunately, is we need video evidence. We need to see it. Where I need to see it with my own eyes. 90 something percent, I'm not gonna give actual statistics, but it's up there, are most and sexual assault cases. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that word on YouTube. Oh well. Most R-word and sexual assault cases are not reported, let alone the ones that are reported and then they just can't go the full distance. However, that brings me to this though. The difference about this specific case is that in the document, she states that she reported, not only did she I don't know about this, she probably messed up talking back to Diddy and, kind of had an altercation with Diddy. But after the fact, she went to the police. She got the rape kit. She got, she went to the hospital. But she thinks that the police were in on it. And that's why it got thrown out or whatnot. But at least she went. At least there's documentation. There's proof that she tried. You know what I'm saying? So this case might not be a decoy. But only time will tell. His trial is supposed to start in May, if I'm not mistaken. And if we think these new names are shocking and stuff, imagine what they have in the actual trial. The trial is going to be wild. And I just hope any victims get justice. That's all I can hope for. So that's all I will hope for. But with that said, I'm going to end this pod and go enjoy my fucking birthday, because it's a big one. It's not every day that I turn 21. You feel me? Just kidding. I'm a little bit older than that. Google me. So, I got new stuff for my birthday. I designed and worked more. I did a new episode here for you guys, but also I put up, I think, 3 or 4 new pieces on DAPHYA.com. Just another dose of distance. I have a phone case. I got a duffel bag. I got some DAPHYA leggings and some DAPHYA tank tops as well. So those should all be on my site right now when you watch this. And yeah, I don't think I have any other announcements. My latest song, Running, is still out, obviously. But yeah, I will see you guys here next week on the third podcast. But remember, I am the voice you can trust. Onesies.